What does being a Christian look like? Now that's a question that could offer up opportunities for lots of debate, as if we needed any more issues to debate about. But think about it. Who are your role models for living a life of faith? What is it about their character that impresses you, that has changed you, that has encouraged you to walk with them and follow Jesus? Who's out there for you that you kind of hook up with and walk along with this journey of faith together? We have names and faces that might come to mind. People who seem to have their lives of faith together, people who impress, who inspire, who perhaps have grabbed the attention and the imagination of the public. You might see them on TV. They might speak to thousands on a Sunday in their large auditoriums. They may have written inspirational books. Perhaps they put together outstanding video teaching courses. These are folks who make a splash and they gain a following. They're out there. We've been touched by their lives and their ministry, each one of us. And it seems like our culture does an excellent job of packaging those sorts of people for us. And those folks who have been lifted up, seems like when they make a mistake or a misstep, our culture does an even better job of tearing them down again. That's the world that we live in. But I think being a Christian looks like something that's entirely different. And that's what Jesus models for us this morning. That's what Jesus is trying to teach us this morning. That's what Paul writes about as he lifts up people of faith. And we see them in the stories, folks who may have thought they had their lives of faith together, who thought they had the admiration of all the people, and folks who had no illusions about how the world looked at them and what they saw in their lives. If you look at what's happening here in the story about Jesus that Luke tells, it seems clear that if you were looking for a relationship with God, you really needed to find folks who were walking it right. Because in Jesus' day, not everyone was made to feel real comfortable in the company of folks who thought they had everything right as God's people. Not everybody was made to feel welcome. Folks had raised the bar pretty high. The good guys club was pretty exclusive. And it was a good guys club. And that's what's so amazing about this story. Jesus had gone out to eat with one of those leaders, a Pharisee. They'd all sat down on the table, and here's what Luke writes. A woman in the city who was a sinner, having learned that he was eating in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster jar of ointment. Somehow this woman had gotten into the Pharisee's home. And that was amazing in itself. You have to wonder how she got into this dinner party in the first place. She was a sinner, and since in the eyes of her culture she was dirty with sin, it should have been out of the question for her even to be near the house of a Pharisee, because they were so concerned about being blemished and made unclean by those around them. So it didn't set very well to have this woman of the streets throwing herself at Jesus' feet. It didn't make a very good impression that she was crying her eyes out, that she was getting his feet all wet and then drying them with her hair. She just did not belong here. Now, this is one of those stories about Jesus that you can find in each one of the four Gospels, and that's important because that assures us that things probably happened just the way that they were recorded. And what's interesting is that only in Luke's record of the life of Jesus does this particular story take place as early in Jesus' ministry as it does. In Matthew, Mark, and John, the foot washing takes place just before Jesus is arrested, later on in his ministry. And the focus is on how expensive perfume is poured out on Jesus' feet as a way of pointing ahead to his death on the cross. But because this story in Luke takes place so early, the focus in the story is different. When the woman crashes the party, this Pharisee so-called man of God, says under his breath, if this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what kind of woman this is who is touching him, that she's a sinner. It seems like in Jesus' day, to be welcomed in a dinner party, all you had to be was sinless. You could have made all sorts of other arrangements, but as long as you were sinless, that would have gotten you through the door. I wonder if we had to be sinless to come into this place of worship, to come here and get down on our knees and worship a Savior, do you think you could have made it past the bouncer outside? That stage job in the Narthex. It was clear that something had to change. And that's what Paul was writing about in the letter from Galatians that Jamie shared a little bit ago. He was writing to these same issues that we just read about from Paul, or from Luke rather. It's always interesting to read Paul's letters to the early church. Usually he starts a letter by buttering up the readers and giving thanks for the good work that the particular congregations have done. But in Galatians, it's a little bit different story. Here's how he begins the letter. I'm astonished that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel. Not that there's another gospel, but there are some who are confusing you and want to pervert the gospel of Christ. Some problems at the church gate in Galatia. Paul had founded that church by telling them all about the saving grace of Jesus. He preached to them. He told them they could do nothing to pay for salvation, that it's the gift of God, that it was free to everyone who would believe it and receive it. And now it seems like there were some other requirements that were being placed on people by the members of that church. Grace, that undeserved love of God, wasn't going to get you through the gates of that particular congregation anymore. There was an attempt to roll back the clock and include some of the rituals that had been an important part of the life of Jewish believers. Laws about what you could eat. Laws about what was clean and what was not clean. Laws about who you could be associated with and those folks you should stay away from because they were unclean. And suddenly it looked like the outsiders were coming to the door and not being allowed to pass a background check. And we can look at that and we kind of scoff and say how foolish those people were. But sometimes it's good for us to step back and check to see what sort of welcome mat we put down at our doors as we welcome people into our congregation. What do we demand before we welcome others or those seekers who are looking for the good news? We love what Paul writes in his letters about how important God's grace is, and we hold on to his preaching that talks about the fact that we're saved by faith in Jesus Christ, by what we believe and not by what we do. But I wonder if sometimes we don't act a lot like the Pharisee at the meal table that we would care to admit. We've got a little bit of that tendency. We like to have codes of conduct. We like to be able to measure if a person's acceptable enough, even though we wouldn't like to have that applied to us. But listen again to what Paul's words say. We know that a person is justified not by the works of the law, but by faith in Jesus Christ. That's it. That woman who crashed the dinner party at the Pharisee's house had faith. She knew where to come for grace and forgiveness. She knew she couldn't find either one with the host of the party. She couldn't find either one with the religious folks of her day. But she knew that she could find it with Jesus. And that's why she was there. And she had the courage to respond to Jesus' message of love and forgiveness. And she sought him out to thank him for that message that changed her life. And that's why she came into the house and fell at the feet of Jesus. And we read that she washed his feet and poured perfume on them. And she didn't do that so that Jesus would accept her, pat her on the head and say, what a good girl you are. She did that to show how grateful she was. And Jesus welcomed her. He didn't push her away. He saw in her a willingness to step out in faith and know that she could be forgiven and made new. And he says this, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Would we all love to hear those words? But wait, you did hear those words not too long ago. In Jesus Christ, you have been forgiven. The challenge for us today is to try and imagine where this woman would be able to find a community of believers that would offer her that peace that Jesus promised. Would she find it here? She wasn't going to find it at the Pharisees' dinner party. And that's why Jesus tells her to go. Would she feel a sense of peace if she came here? Would she find folks to build a new life with here in this congregation? There's your chance again to step into the story. She realized, as she fell at the feet of Jesus, that her new life was about to begin. She was a forgiven child of God. Everything about her had been made new. She didn't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. All she had to do was say thank you. And she did that by washing Jesus' feet. Maybe sometimes we spend too much time checking to see if people are living lives the way we think they should, according to standards that we've put in place. And perhaps our time would be better served if we would simply show people how to be thankful. You know, God really doesn't ask too much of any of us up front. God never has. And that's because we really can't do anything more than what God has already done. Each time we open up the Scripture, we see God in new ways. And one of the chief missions of the Spirit of God is to show us in all those various ways that God reveals Himself, ways that we can be thankful. Now, it's obvious Paul was a little bit disappointed with the church in Galatia when he wrote this letter, because they hadn't really caught the vision of what it means to live lives of gratitude to God. It's almost as if they didn't know quite how to handle this gift of salvation that God had given to them. Can't you hear them getting together after hearing what Paul had to say? Say, I mean, all we have to do is believe? That's it? Sounds too easy. You know, we've got to check into that because too many people might hop on the bandwagon. We can't have that. We better make the grade a little steeper. And so they started to undo the grace that Paul had told them about. They started to throw out all sorts of barriers in the way of God's gift of forgiveness. In our cost-conscious world, you and I need to remember, we need to preach, we need to live the good news that Jesus Christ has already paid the price for all of us. No matter what we've done, no matter how far away from God we may have strayed, no matter what sort of barriers we placed at the doors of our church, no matter what the price of admission, the good news is that it's been paid. We've been saved by faith. That's the grace of God in Jesus Christ. And now it's up to you and me to model what it looks like to follow Jesus. We've been called to model what it looks like to step out in faith with a belief in the deep love that God has for the world. A love so deep that He gave us Jesus. And then to show the world that we know what forgiveness is all about. That we know how life-changing that can be, because that's what folks are looking for. Love and forgiveness and that way of changing life. When we're looking for what Christians look like, when folks look at you, do they see Jesus? When folks are seeking for a way to walk toward Christ in faith, can they look at you? And can you show them the way? May God who loves us give us the strength and direction. Amen. Would you pray with me? Lord God, the challenges are there for us, but the cost has been paid in Jesus, and we are free to live lives of joy and service in response to that gift. Keep us from making it too difficult. But at the same time, help us to show what a wonderful opportunity, what a wonderful love you poured out to us in His name. May we share that with the world. We're looking to see the way we need to hear. May they see and hear it from us. In Jesus' name.